It was a Dominican priest that ran clubs in our hometown of Newbridge in County Kildare in Ireland. And he ran clubs, but the club was known as Makra Natuaha, and that means sons of the ground or sons of the earth. So this club used to go away on holidays on every summer, and it would do many different things. But one of the tasks in the club was they would often give you assignments to do. You could pick the assignment. So I was good friends with a guy called Christy. So Christy and I, as young students, I was 14 years old and Christy was 15. I was saying he wants us to do some kind of a project. The priest, the Dominican priest. And I said, what should we do? Now, Christy was a real academic, even at that age, and an astute student, and did a lot of reading. And he says, look, he says, lately, many people throughout the world are seeing UFOs. I said, yeah, I've read some of the cases. And he said, let's do something on that topic. And I said, what? What should we do? He said, let us do an experiment to see, can the experts be fooled? And I said, Christy, I don't believe the experts can be fooled. Most of these people have degrees and they're professors and they've got a lot of equipment and they just cannot be fooled. And his argument was, I believe they can. I said, well, if they can only be, my argument was they can only be fooled by highly qualified people. He says, I believe a 14 and a 15-year-old can fool the experts. So we decided to do our project on, could the experts be fooled? So I had bought some cheap camera film in Shannon Airport, which was 6 old pence. And I bought this cheap camera film. And I put it into my Instamatic camera. And Christy and I went and we had a tape recorder with us and we were playing Jesus Christ Superstar. And that was all to go at the time. 1977, 21st of July 1977. I'm 14 years old, Christy is 15. And we get near a big power station, electrical power station, where they reduced the power down to put it into the national grid. And we climbed from the road into a field and I took a photograph of Christy and he took one of me with a tree in the background. So then we took our hubcab of a bus, so it was a big one, a hubcab of a bus. So Christy then went beyond me and he threw it up and I followed it. So I moved with the camera, and this is early days, this is before we had our digital cameras nowadays, but so I moved with the camera and I kept snapping. And just without being planned, Christy moved a little bit further away and he threw it up and he kept walking away, and it looked as if I got a load of photographs of a UFO that was getting smaller and smaller as it went away. But it was unplanned, but it worked out brilliant on the photographs. So we 10 photographs of this UFO. So we said, as two people that had won many awards for acting. And what is an actor? An actor is a liar who pretends they're somebody else. So we said, right, let's get our story straight. We were walking out, listening to some music. We had some film that we bought cheap in Shannon Airport. We decided to take a few photographs. We took a photograph of each other, and then all of a sudden this thing came over us. And I fell back on the ground, and I started snapping it from underneath. And so we got our story correct. So then we saw an advertisement in the newspaper. I mean, everybody throughout the world were seeing UFOs. And this advertisement was from the Irish Society before the Unidentified Flying Object Research Association in Ireland. And it said, if you have seen something, please contact us. So I said to Christy, let's contact these guys. So we contacted them first. And they came out with motorbikes, and they came out with blue lights on it, like a police motorbike. And they came out and they interviewed us. And then seemingly all of these investigators, they contact each other. So they contacted the British Unidentified Flying Object Research Association, who in turn contacted the Americans. So the British came over and they had vans outside. Vans I recognized the make of the vans, and they interviewed us and they wired us up lie detectors, but of course we were professional, well, not professional, but we were liars in the sense of we did a lot of stage work. Then the Americans came, and wow, they came with four big Dodge vans. We'd never seen a van as wide as that in our lives before, and they had to ask the neighbours to use the power sockets because there wasn't enough power sockets in my mom and dad's house. So they were plugging in all of this equipment, this high technology equipment. We were amazed at it, and then we were getting a little bit frightened. So they wired us up, and they took us into two separate rooms, and they interviewed us, and it was like going through an Israeli airport, with separating you and seeing as your story does your story check out. They were highly impressed. Then the TV heard about it, the National Broadcaster of Ireland, RTE, meaning Radio Telefish Éireann. They heard about it, so they invited us up for some radio interviews. And when they got the radio interviews, they wanted to do some film footage to put out on TV. So this snowball was starting to gather a lot of snow. And we were wondering with ourselves, wow, this is getting a little bit too big. Is it going to burst at some stage? We were getting a little bit frightened. Then the newspapers got it, and the story, they just ran with the story. There was a newspaper called the Kildare Report, and various national newspapers took our story. So we were getting a little bit worried. So much so that my dad was in the army at the time, and he took all the officers, everyone had seen this, and wow, his son had seen this UFO. And we're all, look, please introduce us to your son. We want to see this guy. So my dad came home and he said, listen, son, I've a lot of officers up there that they want to meet you. This is great. What, the fact that you've seen this UFO. And I got frightened. And I said, listen, Dad, we didn't see a UFO. We made this up as an experiment. And I explained the story to him. But he got so angry. He said, my God, he says, I'm there in front of officers in the army, and what am I going to say to them? So he got really, really mad about it. And then we were wondering, what are we going to do? But for part-time, while I was in school, I used to work in what we call a sweet shop, selling sweets. So people used to come into the shop and they'd buy, excuse me, may I have a Mars bar? May I have a Galaxy bar? Do you have those penny flying saucers? So we were putting up with a lot of stick, as we call it in Ireland. And yeah, we did radio interviews with very popular TV hosts in Ireland, and we did TV stuff. And there was a book written where they contacted me, and I said, use different names. You can use the photographs, but use different names. Well, it went on for a couple of years. This didn't just all happen in 1977. It spilled over into 1978 and 1979. We did prove that the experts could be fooled. Our conclusion roughly was that they wanted to believe in us. They wanted so much to believe that we had seen a UFO. I mean, on one occasion, the Americans were there and they had us all wired up and they had all these crazy things attached to my head. And they said, were you missing any eyebrows or hair? I said, that's a crazy question. Why are you asking me this question? And the American said, well, we have reason to believe you were taken up into the craft. So they got a local photographer to analyse the photographs, who staked his reputation in writing, in print, in a press, that these are genuine photographs. He reckoned that the UFO was 200 feet in diameter, 2,000 feet in altitude. These are experts now. We're 14 or 15 years old. And then they saw a power unit on it, but they couldn't see any flag markings, but they saw a power unit. Whatever way we spun the disc, it looked like there was a power unit on it of some kind. But they analysed, all these experts analysed them, and they came back and they said, you've got the best photographs, this is front seat news. And it went out, I understand, to TV programmes and newspapers on whatever way the United States Unidentified Flying Object Research Association handled it. But it got too big. We couldn't publish our findings in the end because too many people were wanting to believe in this. And what we intended to do, it was a noble project to see could a couple of kids fool the experts. And we did. But we fooled them. They helped a lot. They wanted to believe. And they helped a lot. But we couldn't publish them, although we had written and we done up an absolutely fabulous project. And there was a prize of, I think, 100 punts. That's old money before we went into the euro. There was 100 punts going for the best project. And we knew we had it, but we just couldn't come clean. We couldn't come clean. So to this day, now and again, the photograph appears in a magazine or it appears someplace, and I just look at it and I get little reminders. And yeah, a 14 and 15-year-old in Ireland fooled the experts from around the world, and that's it.